Men over 40's greatest weakness is this, and we're going to dive into this today, and we're going to teach you how to turn him around to help you actually find or experience the relationship you desire. Now, I want to read to you from a blog I posted on my YouTube community page, so let me just read from this. It says, most humans have a fantasy-based perception or an unhealed, unconscious belief pattern about what the experience of falling in love must feel like. Some people believe it should be magical when you meet the one, while others are attracted to people who trigger all kinds of their wounds, also known as butterflies. So let me repeat that. Whenever you're experiencing butterflies, it might be unhealed wounds that are being triggered in that moment. Here's the thing. Some folks have done the inner work to heal childhood wounds and adult traumas, especially in the understanding and healing of insecure attachment styles. When two people who connect have done the inner work before meeting, they might not fall in love right away because they do not feel the unhealthy pattern or fantasy they experienced in the past. Let me repeat that. When two relatively emotionally healthy people meet who understand their love attachment style, they might not feel a sense of connection because it doesn't feel familiar to the fantasy-based way of dating in the past or the unhealed trauma, unconscious belief system they have in the past. Healthy love might feel foreign to these folks who have mostly experienced insecure love for so long that two good people might bounce off of one another instead of leaning in. I've observed many people unconsciously chasing unhealthy love in the dating marketplace because they haven't tapped into their healthy love within themselves. Secure love sometimes doesn't feel real because, as I said earlier, it feels foreign. So if two people have done the inner work, they might have to take a leap of faith from one date to the next date to the next date to grow instead of holding on to old patterns, believing that's what must happen. Okay, so why am I diving into this today? See, many people in the dating marketplace are either caught up in the fantasy realm of what a relationship looked like. It should like Serendipity, The Notebook, just something so magical where two people's energy force feels so wonderful, it feels natural to connect with one another. Or oftentimes, for most of us, we've experienced insecure love in our past. And so when we connect with someone, let's say you're an anxious person, they're an avoidant, that feels like love because you're chasing love instead of actually experiencing a heart-centered connection with another person. And as I said earlier, when two people have done some inner work, when two people actually know their love attachment style, and if you're not familiar with the book, Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, I highly recommend reading this book. It says, are you anxious, are you anxious, avoidant, or secure? How the sciences of adult attachment can help you find and keep love. See, a lot of times what we humans experience is an insecure form of love. And this causes us to pass up really good people, or let me reframe that. We oftentimes, if we are in an insecure place, we attract another insecure person, and it's very difficult to build the deep roots of trust in a relationship when we're operating from an insecure place. Now, some people might remember the terminology called codependency, and there's some crossover between attachment style and codependency. So why is this relevant to this conversation? What's men's greatest weakness? Well, let me share this with you in just about a minute. See, women often want men to lead the process, and this is based on thousands of years of programming. Women have basically needed men for survival. So to some degree, we've lived in such a patriarchal world of men are the leaders of the relationship and they must climb to the highest room of the tallest tower to prove their worth. See, men in their 40s are rather different than those in their 20s and 30s. Why is this the case? Because roughly 75% of singles in the dating marketplace over 45 years are divorced. And let me just say this. When two people get divorced, there's a really good reason for it. So what are men's greatest weakness? You know what it is? Most men are rather clueless about the mechanics of a relationship, particularly the over 40 category. Just because someone was married once before and now divorced doesn't make them any more qualified to know the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship. In addition, very few men and women combined have done little or no inner work to heal the trauma of the ending of a relationship, or at least study how to be in a healthy relationship. You know, there's a book I talked about recently. I want to reintroduce this. It's called How to Be an Adult in Relationship by David Richo. By the way, all the books I recommend are listed below in the Jonathan Recommend books. I want you to ask yourself something. Let's say you've dated 10 men in the last 5 years. How many of them actually know the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship? But Jonathan, I'm just supposed to sit back in my feminine energy and let men lead because that's what I've been told to do for thousands and thousands of years because men are such good leaders of a relationship. You know, if men are such good leaders of the relationship, why do we have such high second and third marriage divorces? Let me repeat that. Roughly 65% of second marriages end in divorce, and roughly 75% of third marriages end in divorce. If men are such great leaders of the relationship, if they're so good at this, then why is there ending after ending after ending and after ending? I believe it's because men's greatest weakness in the romantic realm is they're rather clueless to the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship. You know, we men have been taught romance is the pathway to love. And most men have minimal forethought about how to make a relationship work. Let me repeat that. Most men have minimal forethought on about how to make a relationship work. From how much time you should spend together to good conflict resolution skills. And frankly, you ladies are no better. You're no picnic at it. Many of you are just as are suffering from adult traumas or unhealed childhood wounds. Many of you are walking around very wounded, very jaded, very bitter. And I see this. I'm in the dating marketplace. I see this habitually. Therefore, the weaknesses aren't for one gender. It's both genders, because the reality is most human beings don't know the mechanics to a healthy, happy relationship. If you're going to put yourself in the dating marketplace, I invite you to read this book. Take out the word marriage and replace the 7 principles for making a relationship work by John Gottman. I highly recommend reading this. I highly recommend reading this. Now, in a moment, I'm going to teach you how to turn this around, how to put this in your favor if you're a woman watching this video. But just remember, if a man is weak at relationship skills, if he has very little understanding of the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship, how can he lead and build trust with you? Bump, bump, bump. How can he build trust with you? What is trust? Listen, we oftentimes think of trust in the form of fidelity. But you know, when I think of trust, I think of, does this person have my best interest at heart? Do two people operate from the other person's best interest is my best interest? You see, we oftentimes date from a very self-centric place. Can I get my needs met? Am I going to get what I want of the relationship? And ladies, you are just as guilty of this as men. Men oftentimes seek the physical connection with a woman, and women tend to want some sort of structural commitment out of the relationship. So it's what your wants are, but are you two actively communicating with one another to build trust? Are you building the deep roots of trust through something I'm about to share in a moment? You know, one of the things I do in my private coaching, there's a link below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you, is I teach you a method, what I call radical honesty, pre-qualifying your prospect. Based on your personality, we put together all of the questions you should ask before you ever give your heart to a person. And this includes an exercise called Gauge His Emotional Maturity. Ladies, I want to share with you my relationship iceberg. Hold on a second. Oops. I know it's here somewhere. By the way, please forgive the glare. You can see above the waterline, it says attraction is chemistry. But below the waterline is compatibility, shared values, shared vision, blendable lifestyle, and emotional maturity. We have a walking wounded population. Roughly about 80% of singles in the dating marketplace have done little or no work to heal their childhood wounds and adult traumas. And let's not discount, divorce is a very traumatic event. And if roughly 75% of the people in the dating marketplace are divorced and less than 10 or 20% have done some level of healing, that means over 2/3 of the people in the dating marketplace over 45 years old are oftentimes don't have the skills to be in a healthy, happy relationship. Just because two people desire to want to connect with one another, to be companions with one another, doesn't mean they have the skills to be partners with one another. So what are you going to do to turn this around? How do you turn the tables? First and foremost, begin a healing journey for yourself. I invite you to read the book, The Hoffman Process. The Hoffman Process. This is a deep dive into healing your childhood wounds that cause the negative patterns and limiting beliefs in your life, particularly in the areas of the fears and insecurities that you have that might sabotage a healthy, happy relationship. I invite you to read this book first. Also, read the books I shared in this video. To begin the healing process, I invite you to do personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. If you haven't read my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work, there's a link below to get a copy of my book. I invite you to begin a journey. Do therapy. Do somatic therapy. Start to work on yourself. That's number one, to turn things around. And number two is develop the standards you want to experience in a relationship. Can someone write that down? Develop the standards you want to experience in a relationship. Many of you follow my channel know the standard I'm seeking. This is what I desire, and you are more than welcome to borrow from my list. You are more than welcome to borrow from my list. And my standard is simple. I'm looking for a relationship where on average we can spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in our personal and our professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that leads to either moving into getting married or getting married. In addition, I have something known as my dating vows that before two people are physically intimate, that they share this with one another to at least establish the standard. When you know your standards, when you set it up properly, and I'll read the dating vows in a moment, you can establish the boundaries needed that will actually put your relationship on track. And let me just tell you something about men. Here's the deal. I said earlier, men's greatest weakness is that they're clueless. But here's the one benefit you have with men. When a man is established in a relationship, or let me reframe that. When men are established in a relationship, they oftentimes nest into a relationship. Nest. Just like birds create a nest. Actually, men, by the way, typically women are the ones who initiate 70% of divorces, maybe 80%. Men rarely initiate breakups. Now, it's a little tricky in the current dating marketplace because we have a very broken and wounded population of men and women. So a lot of men end relationships because they're rather clueless. But once you've established the standards, once you've read the dating vows, I'll share the dating vows with you right now. It goes something like this. You each agree to this before physical intimacy. You agree to saying to each other, I agree to explore the process to getting to know you with the intent to declare something serious within the next 3 to 6 months. I agree to be monogamous sexually while we're having regular sex together. I agree to not actively seek and meet and date other people, which includes, if we met on a dating app, taking down our dating profiles. I agree to speak up if this isn't working for me versus ghosting, pulling it back, or disappearing. And I agree to invest regular time together, which looks like those 3 or 4 days and nights a week doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interest, spending time with family and friends. When you establish the standard of what you're looking for, then when the relationship isn't meeting that standard, you can then establish the boundary, because the boundaries, I like what Brene Brown says about boundaries. Boundaries are simply what's okay and what's not okay for me. Ladies, when you've done the healing work, when you begin a healing practice, and by the way, 2 people should be doing this. Ladies, I encourage you to only choose men who have done some level of healing work. And by the way, just because they went to couples therapy 3 times, that's not healing work. I invite you, that should be one of the very first questions you ask someone in the early stages before you ever kiss a man. Find out, has he done some level of personal development, self-help, spiritual work, or therapy? Because when 2 people, as I shared in the earlier post, when 2 people have done healing work, actually meet one another again, it feels a little boring at first. It might not feel right, because they're not used to the unhealthy or fantasy way of dating. But guess what happens? These 2 people have the greatest chance for success. And when they build the deep roots of trust, and let me tell you something, social activities, hobbies, mutual interest, spending time with family and friends, those are the activities, those are the experiences that build the deep roots of trust with one another when you can operate as a team with one another. I invite you to read one more book. This is a business book. It's called The Partnership Charter. How to start out right with your new business partner. Take out the word business and replace it with romantic. Here's the deal. This is all, by the way, when you think about a relationship today of 2 grown adults, it's like 2 lawyers joining together in partnership. But Jonathan, I'm just supposed to sit in my feminine energy and let men lead. Ladies, you are in charge of your relationship destiny. Don't give that job to a man. We've already established this is their greatest weakness in the romantic realm. I invite you to take charge of your relationship destiny. Read this book, understand how a partnership works from a business perspective, just simply to create fodder. And one of the fundamental principles in the book is the principle of mutual exchange. When you understand this in a relationship, the reciprocal nature of a relationship, the mutual exchange, you are better prepared. You're establishing your standards. You're going to be better prepared for your boundaries. So when you meet the right person who's on the same page as you, you can maybe travel the road in partnership, in teamwork, versus just another just so you don't end up in a somebody I used to know experience. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. And make sure you hit the notification bell on your phone too. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis. There's a link to follow, get my dating vows, to follow me on Instagram, and get all the books I recommend listed below. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box right there. Write the word question and post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase the super sticker, super chat. There's a little $ in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. That's a picture of him right there with his brother and I. It's my son who passed away over 6.5 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, just to name a few, also scholarships to coaching as well. All right, and our goal tonight is $50, so I'd appreciate some love. All right, if you have a question, post a question below. Let's see what we have here. Kay says, I enjoy this channel. Buttercup says, I stay off of dating apps. Do you know that roughly 65% of couples who met in 2024 met through an online connection? 65%. That vastly outnumbers meetup groups, family, friends, bars, work, church, school. Awaken to Yoga says, I met someone on Millionaire app. That's the one you're on, right? Yes, I am on an app called Millionaire Match. I'm actually on several different apps. I figure, the more spokes in the wheel, the more opportunities. Yes, I'm on that app. I'm not a paid member, though. I just have the free version. All right, Annika's in the house. How you doing, Annika? How do I integrate my qualifying questions more organically in the first date, especially when a guy is not asking me questions? You know what I like to do, Annika? Say, hey, you know what? I've been following this dating coach online. Have you ever seen videos from a dating coach? You could say that. You might say yes. He might say no. I've been following this guy, and there's a couple questions he recommends women should ask men. Do you mind if I ask you those questions? I want your opinion on them. I want your opinion on them. That's how you can simply integrate it. And maybe you make it a fun experiment, because he might approach it from an antagonistic perspective, or he might approach it from a curious perspective. If he is controlling and antagonistic, oh, we don't need to ask questions, we can just figure it out on our own, then he's probably not very open-minded. And that'll give you a clue. But if someone says, sure, that sounds kind of interesting, let's give it a shot. So that would be the way I approach it. Annika, you can go back and rewind this and write down what I shared, okay? Thank you for that question. Jess points out, purchase the book attached through your Thrifty Books. Looking forward to reading it. I hope you enjoy it. Beauty Bomb Mom, I'm glad I finally caught a live. I truly enjoy your videos. Thank you so much. T says, love, appreciate, and agree with all these points you speak about tonight. So on point. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I try to offer perspective that isn't the generic advice that you're hearing out there. Sit back in your feminine energy and let men lead. You must lean back and all that kind of stuff. The feminine energy coaches. Look, I'm all in favor for women's empowerment. I'm in favor of men's empowerment. I'm in favor of healing our shit. I'm a catalyst. I use the dating conversation merely to encourage personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. So that's what I'm here to do on this planet, just to be a catalyst for growth. So thank you so much. Jennifer Beckman, what would you do if you asked a man to do a dry January with you, but then you broke it when you went to see family and happening twice, and now needs time to figure things out? So I'm assuming no alcohol for the month of January, but you broke your commitment to that. It's happened twice and he needs time to figure things out. Well, if you broke a commitment, and he wants to evaluate, I think that's a natural thing. When we make a commitment to something and we break it, it might represent a lack of integrity. So if he needs time to figure it out, I don't think he needs more than a couple days to figure it out. I don't think a person needs months to figure it out, but I certainly think if someone took, a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 days, that's not an unheard of thing. And then hopefully he comes back asking you more questions about what was going on inside of you. At least that's what I would do. Kristen's in the house. Moving in with a man scares me because being provided for seems risky. My boyfriend and I want to do it, but how do I make myself feel more secure living with at a man's home? Well, I think first and foremost is to have solid agreements, particularly in a financial realm. You said it scares being provided for. Well, just remember, 2 people can live cheaper than one, so there's an advantage there. Certainly having your own resources is hugely important. Recognizing that when you're in someone else's home is that this becomes your home too. And he has to be mindful that this is a shared space, not their space. This can cause a lot of hangups for people because, and sometimes two people don't make good roommates with one another. So I can understand what you're feeling. As far as feeling secure, the only way you're going to do that is through agreements, having good, honest conversations and having agreements with one another. Kristen, hope that helps. Annika just gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. If more of you did. Oh, R. Coleman just gave us a $2. Thank you so much. Kay says, I love you're making it easy to understand. I'm happy to hear that. Awaken to Yoga with Vadana. Dylan says, how long until a guy should come meet me in person? We've been FaceTiming for 2.5 months. You know what? I have a rule of thumb. 3 to 4 weeks is max if you've got distance involved. 3 to 4 weeks. Otherwise, discontinue regular communication and you say, hey, if you happen to be in town, let's connect then. I don't believe in, honestly, I don't even think you should spend 3 weeks to a month is too long. You should have been talking it by the first week. You should be making a plan to meet with one another if you've agreed that you have some potential together. So to answer your question, schedule a flight tomorrow. God, I'm thirsty. Oh, Mona just gave us a $3 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Hey, if 10 more of you just gave us $4, we would reach our goal. Awaken with Yoga says, oh my. Adina says, what if the guy made plans, but you're scared you might be kidnapped? Meet in a public place. Meet in a public place. I mean, yeah, you know, if you don't, by the way, I would do a background check on anyone you're planning to meet if there's distance involved. But meet in a public place for a few times. Just remember, the minute you start doing long distance, you're setting yourself up for these types of experiences. So do your due diligence, you know, scour their social media page, scour their LinkedIn page, find out as much as you can about them, even ask to speak. I mean, not that that's going to help, but find out as much as you can about their life, where they work, that sort of thing. And if anyone is going to be private or hide that stuff, then don't get involved with them. It's not worth the risk. Awaken to Yoga comes back, but I shouldn't go to him, right? He should come here first. You know, I would venture to say 7 out of 10 times women go to men, but I would say as a rule of thumb, a man should go to a woman as a rule of thumb. Or at least meet halfway, you know, depending on how far apart you live. These pretzels are making me thirsty. What movie is that from? Carrie says, if you have friends, you can tell your friends and call them where you're at. Actually, ask friends to join you on the date. Have them be there too. I don't know. You know, it's funny. When I first got divorced, oh, it's from Seinfeld. These pretzels are making me thirsty. I remember when I first got divorced, actually a bunch of time, I was just online dating. A couple times I met people at a local restaurant or bar. I'd go with a couple friends. They'd bring a couple friends. And that's how I first met. This was back in early 2007-ish when I got divorced. I'm just telling you, why aren't we going back to that sort of thing where we feel safe with one another because we have our friends there? Beauty Bomb just gave us a $3 super sticker, and Jennifer just gave us a $3 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. Sandy's in the house. Are you still going to do your traveling that you talked about? Slow down on your live videos. You know what? I thought about that, but I'm really just I've been going through a lot of emotional changes in the past year. I'm going through some radical emotional changes in my life. And I want to, and plus my son now, oh, by the way, my son just informed me I'm praying that he gets accepted. He's working on getting his doctorate in psychology. So I want to be supportive of him and I want to be around. So I'm going to stick around for a little bit longer. At least around here. Maybe when I meet the right person, we can travel the world. But thank you for asking. Katerina says women are receivers. When we step into our testosterone, the dynamic feels wrong and unfulfilling. So let me ask you something. When a woman is taking care of children, how is she going to do that if a woman's job is to receive? They're just supposed to receive. They just receive. The child has to do all the giving. And I'm being rhetorical here for a second. By the way, healthy relationships are two givers and two receivers together. This whole testosterone and estrogen dynamic is a crock of shit. If you look at any happy relationship, it's two people who are givers and two people who are receivers. This whole notion that men have to give 24/7 is why men die way younger. Now, there's a different reason why they die. I'm just not a big proponent of that. I believe in a co-creative experience. And trust me, my mother and father were married for 66 years. They were both givers and both receivers. Stacy's in the house and just gave us a $14 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Also, Awaken just gave us $2. Thank you so much. Sandy says, glad to hear about your son. Congratulate. Well, it hasn't happened yet. He goes into his final interview next month. So I'm praying for him. Let's see. Oh, Annika's back in this house. When should we schedule a second date and what to do if a guy doesn't ask right away? I'm a big believer that okay, first off, just a reminder, this is my belief system. The first time two people meet, it's a meeting. The second time two people meet, it's a follow-up meeting. If you see each other a third time, that's the first date. And then the second date should happen relatively quickly to the first date. So my timeline for all this, at the very least, everything should happen within 1 week. The first meeting, the follow-up meeting within a week, the follow-up, the first date within a week, and the second date after that within a week. At the max, it should be a week. But Jonathan, we live 4 billion miles away and we can't do it the way you say. Here's the thing. Proximity creates continuity. Consistency creates continuity. I'm going to repeat that. Proximity creates continuity. Consistency builds continuity. But Jonathan, I'm told I should be dating 4 men at a time and I should just try to wait till the cream rises to the top and I can just go out with one person and one person and one person. By the way, if you're doing the duty dating and he's doing the duty dating, you know what happens is people don't build trust with one another because they're off just dating. They're on the high of the dating. Anyway, that's my perception anyway. Just a thought. Let's keep going. Power Cheese says, unfortunately, about a year ago, a young woman was unlived on her first date. She went to his house. They are still finding pieces of her body. Please be careful. Absolutely. I mean, again, we're meeting total strangers. I would say meet out in public the first couple times. Do a background check. Find out as much as you can about it. By the way, I stalk people's social media before I ever meet them on a date. Or at least I do my best anyway. Hey, I don't want to have a fatal attraction thing happening. And believe me, I get a lot of women hitting on me from social media. I have no idea. I had a borderline woman come or just totally do a 180 on me the other day. 1 minute, she's like coming on to me strong. The next minute, she was just lambasting me. Believe me, there are unhinged people out in the dating marketplace, out just in the world. Okay, we have proximity builds continuity. Yes, that would be nice. Don't forget consistency builds continuity as well. Lena says, it's not a marketplace. I just call it that for shits and giggles. But you know what dating is? If you think about it, dating is like going to a gigantic swap meet. You're looking for this vintage set of clothes that is perfect. And you're going from one booth trying on some clothes to another booth that's trying on clothes to another booth that's trying on clothes. Quite frankly, I'm starting to think dating today is like a big, gigantic swap meet trying to find the right set of clothes. I know that doesn't sound very romantic and it doesn't sound very professional, but it's a clusterfuck out there. Dating is not for the faint of heart. It is the Hunger Games out there from an emotional level. And if you haven't done the inner work, as I described in the beginning of this broadcast, you might be setting yourself up for a disappointment, a disappointment, a disappointment. So yeah, I call it a marketplace, but it's like a big, gigantic swap meet or garage sale. And you're trying to find the right pair of clothes. Tia says, Jonathan, I'm thinking you shared that you recently had a date coming up and wondering if you want to share how it went. Actually, I'll be candid with you. In the last month, I've had 3 or 4 women I've met. I don't think any of them is a love connection. And none of them has really turned into anything substantial. I think one of the women I liked, one of the women or she didn't like me. One of the women liked me. I didn't like her. I'm not ready to go more granular, but I'm just saying that I put myself out there to go through the process of connecting with people. So Tia, thank you so much for that question. I appreciate it. Sandy says, resonating. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. It's about dating. It's not about dating. It's about connection. Dating is the word well, by the way, you know what it is? Elena, you know why it's called dating? Because holy fucking shit, trying to figure out another human being was taken in the dictionary. So they replaced that holy fucking shit, trying to figure out another human being was taken in the dictionary, and they replaced it with the word dating. Hey, does anyone want to join the hot seat to talk to me directly? I just posted a link right now. I'll wait. I'm going to give it a minute or two. See if someone wants to join me on the hot seat. Jess is in the house and she says, do you think social media, new tech has ruined genuine people? No, I think it's just revealed how broken, emotionally broken human beings are. They've always been emotionally broken. It's just now put it on the forefront more so than it was before. That's just my opinion anyway. Kalia by the way, Miss Cromwell says, you're so honest. Love you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Kay says, I met a man for the first time from online. He's great. He checked all the boxes that Jonathan talks about. Yay! We're happy to hear that. Are you willing to come on the hot love seat and we can talk about that? Just post a link. Adelina, I'm falling for a guy, but I feel like he's a fuck boy. Still at his big age of 44. He's talking to women, moving on, rinse and repeat, and I'm trying to move on. Yeah, that's going to happen. By the way, when I was 44, I was a gigantic fuck boy. I was in the dating marketplace. I mean, I got to tell you, 15, 17 years ago, oh my God, it was like shooting fish in a barrel, online dating. By the way, I mean, it was just like this plethora of divorced people out there. I was such a train wreck. I was emotionally just a train wreck. And I thought sex equaled relationship success. That's what I thought. Chemistry and sex equal relationship success. That's what a fuckboy does. He believes that sex will equal relationship success. It took me decades to realize, or at least a good decade to realize, that's not true. Chemistry doesn't equal relationship success. Katerina says, often men are looking for mama. That is what's happening with 50-50 dynamic. Women have 10% testosterone. Men have 90. It's not 50. Guys, every couple works as a team. The healthiest relationship is 100-100. It's 100-100, 100-100, 100-100. That's the healthiest relationship. It's two people investing in each other at a mutual commensurate rate. Let go of all that bullshit, testosterone levels and men are supposed to do that. By the way, if men are so great with their testosterone, why are men divorced don't want to spend a dime on you. But Jonathan, men are provider protectors. They're supposed to do that. Why are divorced men so reluctant to invest in women? Because they got burned in the past. Let go of these stupid narratives and start operating from a team-based way of operating, not an individual I'm going to take way based operating. Just an invitation for you. That's all I'm saying. Tia says, you're welcome, and thanks for sharing. I have the same situation. The one interested in me, I'm not into them, so we keep trying and being patient. Exactly. Elena says, sex is relationship. Yes, sex is relationship success. That's early what he told me. Goodness, by the way. So he told you sex equals relationship success. Now, bad sex equals relationship failure. I can say that. Good sex might continue the process, but good conflict resolution skills, understanding the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship, that equals relationship success. Power of Chi is in the house. Question: have you ever known a guy to give his girlfriend a shut up ring, an engagement ring given to quiet a woman's nagging? You know what? I mean, it's a smart move. Get a cubic zirconium, get a ring. And this, I know a woman who's been engaged now for 15 years, but I don't think she wants to marry him. So, yeah, I'm sure that does happen frequently. Because you can prolong it. And by the way, if I was a guy, I'd buy a cubic. By the way, only because I think engagement rings are the biggest gigantic waste of money. I think you could put that to a down payment on a home, or buy something of real more value than just wearing a ring when you can get a cubic that looks. I know I'm probably turning off some of you women, but I think from I have a friend who spent $80,000 on a wedding ring. He could have put that as a down payment to a condo. I mean, and he's not that rich. So anyway, that's how I feel about. Tia said, Miss Cromwell says, teamwork, yes, mutual. What if I took care of the guy and got burned, scared to touch the stove? That's what happens at midlife. A lot of people are afraid to invest because people get sick, as an example. Holly says, I had a shut up ring in my 20s. I left after 4 years. Well, he had you for 4 years. Trista's in the house. Heard a story where a couple was official for a year and then went to one of his work events and he introduced her as his friend. How would you recommend she handle this? I'd have a chat. I would have a conversation with him afterwards and say, ask him why he chose to do that. I thought we called each other boyfriend and girlfriend. We've been together for a year. Why haven't you shared, ask why. I'm sure he's going to have a bullshit reason. He's going to have a bullshit reason. That's gaslighting you. It's because he treats you as a friend. He doesn't see you as a long-term partner. But I mean, it's only been a year. I'd say, God, if that happened after a year and a half, I'd say kick him to the curb. That's me anyway. Did I say if I was a guy? I am a guy. I can't believe I said that. Beauty says, I agree about the ring comment. Yeah, I just think it's a real diamond's a gigantic waste of money, in my opinion. When you can have, what is it? You can now have, what's it called? Not the artificial diamonds. What are those ones that are manufactured? What are they called? That's a fraction of the price. I just think it's an overpriced piece of jewelry, in my opinion. For years, by the way, I have a legitimate Rolex. I got it as a gift from my mother. This was $900 45 years ago. But if I had a Rolex today, I'd have a fake one. Why? By the way, it looks exactly the same. I can buy a fake one for $200 versus the real one for $8,000. It's just, I don't know. I don't care. That's ego that cares about it. And by the way, if it breaks down, you can just buy another one for $200. That's just the way I operate. By the way, I still like to have nice things in my life. So let me not say that I'm a total I still have nice things in my life. Okay. Miss Cromwell says, I'm so grateful I got this live. Thank you so much. That's it. Lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds. That to me, isn't that like 1/3 of the price of a real diamond? Who cares how the fuck it was grown? Marianne says, I agree about diamonds. That's my profession. I sell them, and I'm glad lab-grown diamonds have hit the market. Yay. Joe Daisy says, matching tattoo rings. I'm not sure I think if I got a tattoo, I'd only get one thing, and that would be Connor's nickname, Salty. I think I'd want to get Salty right here. That's the only thing I would do, would be my son's name. All right. Let's see. Gabriella says, I would like to know, how were you when you were young? Because I like to watch your videos. You seem to be great. I was a jackass when I was younger. I was very self-centric, very myopic. It was only about my own needs. I was a gigantic pain in the ass for a very long time. I mean, I was a good friend to my friends. I've always been, I think because I'm a people pleaser, I've always been apologetic because I want people to like me. So I think that kicks me from the narcissistic bucket. But I was by the way, I'm still self-centric. I mean, come on, we human beings often operate from our own lens. That's what life is partially about, is our own lens. I do try to give a tremendous amount. I shoot these videos. I do this, part of it is it's part of my business. The other part is I just love to make a difference in people's lives. So anyways, just to tell you, when I was younger, I was very self-centric. Lee says, yes, Jonathan, some women value diamonds more than their relationships. So shallow. Who cat? Awakened. Lab-grown diamonds don't hold any value, though. Well, by the way, neither do regular diamonds. They really don't hold that much value. Because you know what? The retailer gets 50 to 75% of that. That regular diamonds don't have value. That's a crock of shit. Moissanite. I've heard of that too. Is that, Mary, is that another type of lab grown or something like that? Tanya wants to know, is it common for men in midlife to ghost? It's common for men and women at midlife to ghost. It's a very common experience. Now, it depends on what you think ghosting. You've exchanged 2 text messages, you don't hear back from them. That's not really ghosting. Real ghosting is when you've been dating, you've been sleeping together, and then they disappear. It does happen. That's rare, but the things that happen where you're communicating for a little bit and they move on, that's just a fact of life. I've known women to hand me a false phone number out in public. Is that any different? It's just, you're just not interested. Awaken to Yoga wants to know, are you safe from the fires? Thank God. I live about 20 miles south of where the heaviest damage in the Pacific Palisades. Unfortunately, I am learning of friend after friend after friend who have lost a home. It is so sad to witness this. I drove from Redondo Beach to the valley, and I drove through the war zone, but I didn't see any damage because they wouldn't allow me to take Pacific Coast Highway, which is a very famous road. But I am scared to think of when I drive there, how bad that's going to be. So I'm really saddened by, oh my God, the absolute devastation. Thankfully, everyone I know is safe, and I'm grateful for that. And to those that were lost, my heart goes out to their families. Thank you for asking. Eleanor says, a person is a person is a person, to each their own. Peace. Exactly. Jess is back in the house. Is it common of a man around their 40s, somewhat delusional, or to get into Peter Pan syndrome? I've heard and noticed certain men around that age. I would say at 40, I was very much delusional in Peter Pan stage. By the way, now where sex is by the way, online dating is like calling up a sex worker. I mean, it's that easy to get laid. So yeah, I can say that Peter, because of ease of getting sex, we turn into Peter Pan. We turn into players. I'm guilty of that. It was, mind you, 15 plus years ago, but I'm guilty of that. Brown Canetta's in the house. Hey, J.A. Thank you so much. Lisa says, hey, Jonathan, caught you late, but glad I caught you. Oh, I got caught. Miss Cromwell says, it's very sad. I used to live in Van Nuys back in the 80s, worked out of Universal, very sad. Also lived in Capo Beach, prayers for all. By the way, Van Nuys was in the general zone of the damage, folks, for those that don't live in Southern California. It is just absolutely apocalyptic what happened. So thank you so much. And Marie says, prayers for fire victims. Exactly. Thank you so much. Adeline says, what do we do about someone that comes in and out of our life? Don't invest a lot of people that come in and out. If they have a propensity to come in and come out and go in and come out and go in and come out, match their energy. When, I'm just the type of person that wants to be with people who want to invest in me. That's just the way I operate. I hope you're the same. Jess says Van Nuts, Valley Girl here. Does anyone remember the song Valley Girl? It's a Valley Girl. Da, da, da. If you grew up in LA, you'd know that one. I remember in Maui over, I think it was it August of 2023? No, July, around July of 2023. Man, that was just scary what happened in Hawaii. Lee says, are you still friendly with Marie? Actually, we don't communicate anymore. She's in a relationship with someone, and because of that, she has cut communication off. So to the extent that I wish her well, I wish her family well. She wrote me a very sweet message. We wrote a very nice letter to each other, but we no longer maintain a connection the way we used to after the relationship ended. But I'm still dear friends with one of my ex-wife. Let me reframe that. I'm not dear friends. I have a deep care for my ex-wife. I consider her family, and my most significant relationship after my marriage, my first most significant relationship, her name is Sherry. She's still a dear friend of mine. Her home was close to the damage. I texted her. But in this particular case, because of her relationship, the answer is no. But thank you for asking. I appreciate that. All right. You know what? Unless we have another question, we're just going to give it another second. If you've got a question for me, write the word question and post the question there after. Miss Pullman says, this is my first live. Hello, everyone. Okay. Mona's in the house. Oh, Miss Cromwell, I was married once and have had 2 significant relationships. So basically in my life, 3 significant relationships, married once, and then 2 significant relationships that lasted over a year each. Which, would you consider a guy who overshares on the first date emotionally broken? I have a propensity to overshare. When I feel safe with someone, I have a propensity to overshare. I'm broken like everyone else is broken. Thankfully I do a lot of personal development, but I think we're all emotionally broken. The question is, are we working on ourselves? It's like tuning a guitar. We're out of tune. I think when we overshare, we're out of tune, but we're out of tune because we feel safe, or they just don't have a good filter. But that's just my interpretation of that one. Beauty Bomb. What is your advice to a woman in her 40s with young children getting back in the dating scene, starting over, new career and everything? Do personal development, self-help, and spiritual work and therapy to heal childhood wound and adult traumas, to heal your ending of your most significant relationship or divorce. Also, establish the standards that you're seeking in a relationship. What is the standard you're seeking? As I've shared repeatedly, and I'm making it easy for you, my standard is simple. I'm looking for a relationship where we spend on average 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork building skills, both in our personal or professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that leads to either moving in together, getting married. And I agree to doing my dating vows, which means once we start exploring a relationship that we agree to declare something serious within the first 3 to 6 months. I agree to be monogamous sexually if we're having regular sex together. I agree to not actively date and seek to meet other people while we're in the process of getting to know one another, which includes taking down our dating profiles. I agree to speak up if this isn't working for me versus ghosting, pulling back, or disappearing. And I agree to spending regular time together. That's what I would do. That's my advice if you're single. Go back, rewind this, write it all down, get my dating vows listed below. All right, that would be my suggestion for you, Beauty Bomb. Jess says, question regarding ghosting. Is it immature or not proper to stop communicating with someone who you just seem to not take you seriously or playing with you? I mean, you can always write a message. I feel like we're misaligned with each other, so I want to wish you all the best on your journey. I mean, or you can just discontinue. I mean, if you haven't met face to face, you're not really obligated, but I always like to be courteous and say, I'm just disengaging from communication. That's what I like to do. Miss Cromwell says, good one. We are working on ourselves. Lots to talk about with my therapist tomorrow. Have your therapist watch this video. Hey, we got Michelle who just gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Hey, listen, if 10 of you just gave us $4, we'd get to our second goal tonight. Just 10 of you gave $4. That would be great. Power Chi is back in the house. Have you seen the Golden Globes red carpet? Do you think Hugh Jackman is moving on too quickly after his divorce? No, I did not see the Golden Globes. My guess is their relationship was over a decade earlier, is my guess. So is he moving on quickly? Who really cares? Focus on you. Tata, how do I pace myself and not too excited in anticipation of first date? We meet in real life. Fuck, I love getting overly excited. I love to be outrageously overexcited. Now, getting attached to an outcome, that's a whole different ballgame. Excitement, I'm okay with that. Attached to an outcome, that's dangerous. So the question is, how do I get attached to the outcome? Just be present. Be present to the experience. But excitement, I always get excited before a date. I like being excited. It's better than, folks, I told this story before, but I had a date with a woman and she walked into the restaurant with resting fucking bitch face. It was like such a downer. I'd rather someone be excited to meet me than resting bitch face, okay? Ms. Cromwell says, I guess I'll have to wait till another session. I got to ask about the age differences. Okay. Joe Daisy says, excitement is living. Exactly. I'd rather get excited, but not attached to an outcome. If you're commenting, not attached to outcome yet, 3 to 6 month expectation. No. That's different. You're making a vow when two people, before they're physically intimate with one another, they're doing it with intentionality. I think to declare something serious, in other words, are we doing this long-term or short-term, within 3 to 6 months is a fair request. It's not an expectation. It's an agreement to have deeper conversations. That's all. Resting bitch face. What is resting bitch face? That's resting bitch face. All right. You know what? We're coming up on the hour, folks. This has been a lot of fun. Did you find value in this video? Did I share something that resonated with you? If I did, post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I do my best to read them all within the first 24 hours. As always, if you found value in the videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on Instagram. Get all the books I recommend listed below. Also, my dating vows are there as well. All All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Merrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, teddy bear, or pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Joe Daisy, Power of Chi, everyone who donated, Annika, Eleanor, Lisa, Kate, Gabrielle, Joe, I already said that. Tatia, Beauty Bomb, Michelle Fry, everyone who donated. Big hugs to you all. Wishing you all. Oh, we want to give Sally big props for the $10 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Lisa says, I hope you have a great night. I wish everyone a juicy, delicious, wonderful evening. Be well. Bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.